Welcome back, Howligans. My name is Joe. I am joined once again by my co-host Ryan. We're here to talk to you about a movie that I'm so excited to talk about. We just finished watching Joker. Joaquin Phoenix, amazing. I know it's been out a little while, but I had not watched it up until this point. He's already seen it. This was my first time seeing it, and I cannot wait to get into this movie and talk about it. I'm slapping the table. I'm making all sorts of noise. Like, I am ready to do this. This was great. It was different than I expected, yet similar to what I expected. There's so much with this movie, and it was really, like I'd heard about it before, it was a character study of the main character here, Arthur Fleck, who ends up becoming what we know as the Joker. I will say in the very beginning, this was something I didn't want to see because I don't want Joker, the character who is the arch nemesis of Batman. I don't want backstory to him that's going to make him a character who is understandable, relatable, that is somebody who you can feel sorry for. This movie was just great. It really was, and I enjoyed pretty much all of it.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. That was my feeling to start with, that I didn't want to have an origin story for him, and I actually totally forgot that. You just now reminded me that I felt that way when this movie was first announced, because when I saw it, obviously, and I saw it twice in the theaters, and it was so good I completely forgot that I didn't want it.
And I can see that if I just let this sit for a while, that thought would just get pushed farther and farther back in my head. Because, I mean, as I said, right when we first started watching this, Joaquin Phoenix has come a long way from Comatose in Gladiator.
Yep.
He is an amazing actor. He did a phenomenal job in this movie. I can't say specifically or just off tops that I liked this Joker more than Heath Ledger's Joker. It was different. It was a very unique take on it, and I liked how it was a self-contained story that I don't necessarily think had to be about the Joker.
Yeah, I have that exact same feeling. It gives me the same feeling as Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
That is not what I expected you to say.
Because it's a good movie without having to be that. It doesn't need the shtick. It doesn't need to be what it is. It doesn't have to be a Joker story. If you took that out, it would be a great story just on its own. And when I watched Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter or Vampire Slayer, whichever it was, we watched it a while ago just for grins.
I have not seen it.
No, we watched it here.
No.
Yeah.
No, I have not seen it.
We literally watched it in this room.
I'll have to take your word for it. Because I remember nothing at all about it. Okay,
we can cut all this shit out if we want.
Okay.
But
that's fantastic.
But yeah, it reminded me a lot of that.
Okay.
Because that movie would have been fine on its own. It didn't need to, if it would have been better if it wasn't Abraham Lincoln. It would have been better. So if you just
took out Abraham Lincoln, it was just a vampire hunter movie?
Yeah, and it was pretty decent.
All right.
It was, it had its own backstory. The characters were developed. You had motivations on either side tied into the Civil War, which made a lot of sense in the world of the movie and kind of what they were trying to do. I mean, it made sense given the rest of the movie. Let's just say that. Yeah, and I agree. In this one, it doesn't have to be the Joker. The Joker as we know him. It doesn't have to be related to Batman. There's no real need for the tie-in with Bruce Wayne or Thomas Wayne or any of that stuff. It could have been completely a different thing. But I don't think it would have gotten the attention it did. This would have been, an artsy kind of indie film that would have been probably like a cult classic in a couple years. But because it was called Joker, it is what it is.
It's so well done. And I heard that it was, and I'm not surprised. I know this actor. Oh man. There were things in it that I said to myself, really? But as this movie progresses, it just really sucked me into the character and everything that was going on.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot of criticisms about the pacing of it and these moments where it has Arthur kind of self-soothing with these dances and these poses and this kind of movement that he's doing. But I think a lot of that is to bring us into his mindset
Absolutely.
And to like suck us into the scene, because when you're left lingering with the scene and you're just kind of watching him and it's Joaquin Phoenix is such a great actor, and the looks on his face, the look on his face, these looks he has at different times and these expressions, these movements. We like tight movies. This is not a tight movie, but it feels like it.
Kind of, yeah.
It feels like everything you're seeing you need to see. Like the moment where he's practicing for going on to... We're going to be spoiling this. We're just going to talk about the whole thing. It's been out for a while, so
yeah,
it's whatever. We just haven't talked about it before. But there's the scene where he's preparing for his interview on the Murray Franklin show, or whatever it's called, and he's acting like he's going to kill himself. And he does that, and then he throws his head back, and then it cuts to another scene where it shows that he has this huge smile on his face. There are all these moments where his expression, it matters. It gives you something about his mindset. It would have been a different message or a different tone if he had just pantomimed killing himself and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been something you might have seen in another movie from a character who's very troubled.
Yeah.
But because he throws his head back and then smiles like that, there's something else up with him. It gives it that jokery kind of twist.
It does. This movie, and 100%, this movie is about mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And not just his mental illness, that of his mother's.
Yeah.
And how that affected him, and how a little bit of what happened to him growing up, and what might have caused him to turn into what he is. And that was something I just had never ever considered before. But Joker, the character that we all know from the comics, from Batman the Animated Series, from all the movies, from everything, he was a 3-year-old little boy at one time.
Yeah.
He was a 6-year-old. He was a child at one point. And that you see Joker the character in all this stuff, comics, whatever, and he's almost the epitome of evil. Just pure chaos. Not even evil, chaos. He's the epitome of chaos, doing things for chaos. And a lot of times those things are evil, but it's all about being chaotic, and that's what he is. I'd never, as I said in the beginning, never wanted a background of this character, but you see that, and it makes you start to question things and be curious about things that you never were before.
Yeah.
This movie really did a good job of that, and I just was so impressed with what it made me think about, how it made me contemplate him as a character, how it all went down. I like how we're not going to get any other movies based on this.
Right. Yeah, it's a
great.
one and done.
I don't want anything based on this. I want this to be a standalone, just what it is, but it really makes you think about things and question things in a way that most movies that we watch don't. And I really appreciated that.
It's also pretty relevant
Mm-hmm.
today. I mean, it was very relevant when it came out. I mean, the Joker masks started to kind of trend the way the Guy Fawkes masks do.
Okay, sure.
Like, people started using them in protests and things like that because people relate to the whole idea of the system being rigged against you. But going back to what you're saying about the origins, I think one of the reasons I was so against it was because I really didn't like the origin of the Joker from the Gotham series on TV.
Okay.
Because that show was weird. That show was, what if all of the Gotham City villains were like 20 years older, at least, than Batman? And were all basically dealt with by the time Batman came around? Because it really focuses on Jim Gordon and the police department and Bruce Wayne, kind of realizing what he wants to do with his life. But a lot of it, you see the Riddler, you see the Penguin, you see how they become who they eventually are, and it was kind of irritating because the police effectively deal with them. So it's like, what is the point of Batman in this world? Like, it would just be better if at the end of it, because Batman does become a thing at the very end of the show, it does a time jump, but it almost would have been better if it was just like, Bruce Wayne comes back to Gotham and he's like, oh no, everything's fine, actually, because the police handled it, because they have been handling it. We've been watching a show about that for several seasons, that the police actually get things done.
That was one thing I thought in this movie, how he's so much older than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked if they had tried to continue it that way.
Absolutely.
And what they did with the TV show was there was a character that you thought was going to be the Joker, and he was it turned out that he was a murderer. He was like a carnival worker or something like that. He like traveled around. I think his mother died, and it wound up being that he had killed her. And at the end, he kind of like reveals that he's like nuts, like Joker nuts.
Okay.
And then he's a villain for a while, and then he dies. And then it turns out he has a twin. Spoilers for Gotham, by the way.
Sounds like Victor Zsasz out of Batman's Pantheon. You know, his rogues gallery. He was just a crazy...
Zsasz was in it, too.
Okay.
But it doesn't show Zsasz coming up. Zsasz is just like working for the gangs as an assassin, which is not Zsasz's thing in the comics. But whatever. But then it turns out that this character had a twin who does become the Joker, I think. Yeah. Either way, Yeah, so the character that looks like he's going to become the Joker has a twin who actually does become him later on. You actually see him as the Joker. You see him confronting Batman for the first time, and it's awful because it's an awful origin story. You know, the second one becomes the way he is because of an accident. He's a little weird, but really intelligent, and he becomes the way he is because of an accident. The first one just was that way for no reason. Like this one, this origin story, you see that it doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, the Joker just didn't drop out of the sky. He was kind of created by society, by the conditions of society. And, you know, the social commentary part of that aside, I just really like that. Mm-hmm. I like his origin is not a specific thing. It's everything. It's everyone. Like, it's his entire life made him that way.
Yeah, it wasn't... Yeah, like, in the beginning, one of the very early things that happens to him, he's working for this going out of business place, spinning this sign around, doing his thing, dressed up as a clown. Apparently, he works for a clown temp agency or something that sends him around to do jobs dressed as a clown.
I believe the term is clown tractor.
I'll take your word on that one. And these kids just come and like steal a sign, and they're running off with it, and he's chasing them. That I bought. Okay, some young people being jerks, I got that. But then all of a sudden, like, they clock him with the sign, and they're just kicking him on the ground, and some of it felt a little heavy-handed in that manner. That they needed to do that in order to really start the progression to turn him into, to use his mental illness and what happens, so many bad things are going to happen to him in order to turn him into this.
I get what you're saying, but in real life, shit that happens like that. I mean, it happens here in St. Louis. Not that often, but you see on the news, like, terrible things happen to people for no reason at all. And this is clearly based off 1970s New York.
Yeah.
Which was, by all accounts, horrifying. Like, it
was
great. Like, yeah, it's like it is in this movie. Like,
but at least, so there's two scenes in which something like that happens to Arthur Fleck. There's this first scene, and then shortly after that, he's talking to one of his coworkers, and I thought it was interesting because he's got these coworkers who he has some semblance of relationship with, and one of them felt strongly enough about him to say, "Here, man, protect yourself." He gives him a gun. Totally shouldn't have a gun. This character of Arthur Fleck should not own a firearm.
No.
But he gives him a gun, and that was something that showed me that there are people in this world who care about him, who at least see him as not an outcast, crazy, just somebody to be avoided, that there's at least people in his life who look at this human being that they are around on a semi-regular basis. Here, man, protect yourself. New York is shitty. Mm-hmm. You gotta stand up for yourself. And then there's the scene when he's on the train with the three guys who this movie ends up kind of revolving around this particular action.
Harassing this woman.
They're harassing the woman, and he, as we said, spoilers, whatever, he has a condition where, and it shows it at least one other place in this movie.
It shows it all over this movie.
Well, yeah, but when he hands the card, and you, as the audience, can understand what's going on, that he laughs for no apparent reason.
Well, he laughs when he's upset. He laughs when he should be crying, which is why in the flashback scene where the mother is saying, like, the cop is saying, your son was found tied to a radiator with severe head injuries and bruises all over his body. And she goes, well, he's such a happy boy. I never heard him cry. It's because he had this condition.
Okay. He's
laughing. Yeah.
When he should be
bawling.
Upset, hurt, bawling. Okay. So these three guys, I guess all of a sudden, I mean, I understand like the guy who's harassing the girl to start, that he's drunk. He's obviously, you can hear it in his tone of his voice that he's drunk. Here, have some French fries and whatever. Oh, they're really good. But
yeah, I've had my cousins do that. Like, hey, you want to try some of this? And it's like, dude, get away from me.
Right? But to go from that to we're just going to start kicking the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
And as you said, there's shitty people out there. I mean, there's shitty people all over the place. Kind of like there's this whole stigma right now and everything that's gone on in the past number of years, almost since you'd say Rodney King, with the police and how people view them. And I'm sorry, I mean, I know we try to hold those type of people, police and whatnot, to a higher standard, but every job that you have, every job that could be had, is gonna have some bad people. Doesn't mean everybody in that is bad, but they worked for Thomas Wayne, and it was a tie-in for that. And I thought when that scene first happened, and it was fairly early on in the movie, first half hour-ish, I would guess. Maybe
I think it was
more.
within like 45 minutes or something.
Absolutely.
Like that.
And they start kicking the shit out of him, and he just fucking kills him.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you see it in his face.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of taking it, and it's when he's mugged by those kids at the beginning, he assumes a certain posture.
Mm-hmm.
He's covering his neck. He's got his hand in between his legs. He knows what to do. This isn't the first time it's happened, and he does that again. They hit him in the face. He falls down on the ground. He's clearly kind of like, all right, we're here again. And then the expression on his face changes, and he kind of grits his teeth and just turns around and fires, I'll point out, like 11 times with a 6-shot. Just saying.
Well, hey, man, you ever see Evil Dead?
Oh, I know.
Like,
it's not the only movie
you can shoot
to
as
do
many
that.
times as you want with that double barrel. It's fine. It's just you hear the sound for the reload, but you never actually see it. It's okay. I really appreciated, after that point in this movie, his change. He changed right then when that happened. Now, other things happened that led you to believe one thing when it was really something else, and you come back to it, and it shows flashbacks of how it really was, and it wasn't the way they portrayed it for specific reasons. It was really interesting how they did it, how the director decided to do this, how it played out, and it really invested me more than I expected it to, because it was just one of those, I saw glimpses of, and maybe that's the real sad part about it, is I saw glimpses in this of he would have just been able to be an okay person.
If he had had the right kind of support, yeah.
Right. But it seemed like, and it can feel like this. For anybody who's listening who thinks that the whole world is against them, it's not. Like, there are people, I get to work with people on a daily basis who we take care of. I work in a retirement community, and I watch, specifically this one young man who I work with, who I watch him interact with some of these residents of ours, and it's really kind of nice to see. There are people out there who do care. Even if you don't think there's anybody who cares, there really is. But there were moments in this movie where I thought it's that tipping point of one side or another.
Yeah,
he's on this fence, and he can go one way or he can go the other way.
Yeah, it's that line the Joker always said, like, all it takes is one bad day. I don't know how many different sources I've heard that in, but one bad day. That's all it took, one bad day, and it tipped him in that direction. Because otherwise, he was trying to be good. He was dealing with stuff, but
trying to take his medication.
Yeah, he was trying to deal with mental illness. He was trying to take his medication, and then
wants to start a career in comedy and be a stand-up comedian. Which, oh my god, that's got to be difficult. That cannot be an easy.
That's terrifying,
gig, right?
I've done. Well, we're doing this. Mm-hmm. I've done radio, like actual radio. No, I've been in the newspaper. I've been on TV, like not as like a performer or anything, but it's just happened. And it's like, nope, nothing's ever made me as nervous as thinking about trying to be a comedian. To come out there with your own ideas like that and try to figure out what is going to make people laugh.
Yeah, public speaking I'm sure a lot of you, anybody who can listen to this, public speaking is a big fear a lot of people have. I don't mind it as much as some people. but it can be really difficult.
See, comedy's different because they have to like what you're saying.
Absolutely. You're not wrong.
You have to strike them in the right way. Public speaking is just putting your idea out there, which is
true.
Just what we're doing, which we do all the time, and this doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it's never anything that I've even contemplated doing. Like I would want to do it at all. I mean, I can be funny, and we're hanging out with people. You say something witty.
Yeah,
whatever.
Funny enough, I feel like we're a lot less funny when we do this than we are just when we hang out. Probably because there's a lot of stuff we can't really say on or shouldn't say, or inside jokes. Well, I'm not talking about anything untoward. Just stuff, inside jokes, stuff from having known somebody for a long time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. There are glimpses that he could have been just a normal dude. That he was just kind of like, needed something, needed a job, needed friends, needed a mother who supported him, not one who just goes, well, don't you have to be funny to be a comedian?
And as a parent, to be fair, I mean, you don't necessarily want to crush your child's dreams. But if you know your kid is going to grow up and like my son, if the tallest he'll ever be is 5'6". I don't want to crush your dreams, but you're not playing in the NBA. Like, I don't care how hard you work at it. You might be able to play in you might be able to do that for a living.
Unless he has a 5-foot vertical leap.
Right?
Maybe.
Like
a cat, just straight up.
But, some people aren't meant for some things. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the manner in which you go about, I guess, crushing the dream, which can be whether you're a caring parent or...
Well, and he had his dream crushed by Murray Franklin?
Mm-hmm.
He had his dream crushed by Murray Franklin, who we clearly saw from that little dream sequence, daydream thing, he sees as a father figure almost.
Yeah.
It's somebody who's... It's sort of this present figure in his life and an idol.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he spends his night with his mom and Murray Franklin.
Can't say I've never thought of it, but to be a celebrity, that's got to be weird. To have people who put you on such a high pedestal and you just want to entertain people. It's like, some people are in it. There's YouTubers or things who are, at this point, like TikTokers, Instagrammers, people who just want to be famous. They only want that. But an actor like this, I think he just wants to entertain people. And for you to take and to put another human being, just flesh, blood, eats, shits, does the same stuff we do.
Smokes, we see him jerking his gherkin in the bed before he gets the call about going on the show. I mean there's some stuff we didn't really have to see, but...
Yep.
Whatever.
Like, it just lives their life day to day like we do. Mm-hmm. They're just people. But you put them up on these pedestals. And it was really interesting how they showed that in this. That people can do that. And especially with this revolving around mental illness, how that's, you could say a slippery slope, can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
And then especially you come to meet these people, and if they don't live up to your expectation, they don't say what you expect them to say, they don't treat you how you expect them to treat you, then there's some sort of issue because of that.
Yeah, it kind of can damage your worldview.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons why I've never wanted to meet anybody that I admired. I don't look at celebrities as like the end all be all of society.
Because they're not.
Yeah, I don't see them as like, I don't know. I don't understand why so much stock is put in what they think personally. Does that make sense? Like, Joaquin Phoenix is a fantastic actor. He's really, really good at his job.
Mm-hmm.
And if the jeweler that I take my mechanical watch to get it fixed is really, really good at his job, I don't suddenly care what he thinks about everything else.
Right.
So it's just because they're in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I guess, come to like them. People like Robert Downey Jr. They like his personality. They like seeing him in interviews and stuff like that. And I don't know, I guess... I think people, it's like you're saying, people put celebrities on a pedestal and they think of them as people that are in their lives that they can trust. I don't know.
And what they like this star persona. Interviews, things like that. Maybe some of them are really similar to how they act. Maybe a Dwayne Johnson or something, how they act, and it's just who they are as a person. But you're never, we've mentioned this in other podcasts, I know, you're never going to know what that person is really like unless you are personal friends with them and have been for years.
Right.
To really know what this person is like on a real basis, not a The Rock versus what Dwayne Johnson is.
Yeah. I mean, look at Bill Cosby.
Ha!
Perfect example, right?
I can't. He's in Bill.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's there's no elaboration needed.
Yep, absolutely. There was so much that went on with this movie. It took me on a ride that I didn't expect almost to go on. I enjoyed so much of it. And it's really, there were some, obviously there are other actors in this movie. You have got the coworkers who he dealt with, the social worker who he had to go talk to. You've got Robert De Niro is in it. You've got Zazie Beetz, who played a neighbor character, this girl who he ends up. There's a whole thing that goes on with these two.
Difficult to describe.
It is difficult to describe, and I don't necessarily. I know there's spoilers abound. I don't want to go into too much about that. So totally just go watch this movie.
She was really good too. But first time you see her, it's like she is so far out of his league.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He's like, it looks like 20 years older than her. Like it was a whole thing. And it was interesting the way they did it in this movie, how everything was portrayed. The city erupting around all of this. Like it was waiting for one thing to happen, one event that they could coalesce around to start everything that was going on.
Yeah, it's like surface tension. It's waiting for that one breaking point.
So you've seen this. This is now, I guess, your third time seeing it?
Yeah, twice in the theater, and then I bought it a while ago, and this is the first time I've actually watched it.
Like anything, I mean, having seen it more than once, what do you feel about it? Did anything change between the theater and now, or
no? Really, nothing's changed. It got a lot of criticism when it first came out because of its portrayal of mental illness and I guess the volatility of people who suffer from conditions like that, and then kind of glorifying violence the way that the people, like you're saying, form themselves around the villain, the one who killed people, but. That never really bothered me. Like we were talking about before, the Batman connection, it could do without that and totally stand on its own. The thing where the Waynes die at the end.
There was some shoehorning, heavy shoehorning.
That was the only one that really felt forced.
Agreed.
It was the only one where it's like an executive did this. Somebody who had some say-so was like, you have to include this. And they probably didn't want to because it's the only part that kind of broke the flow.
And it did, because that's never, anytime you think of Batman, if this was the case, if what happened in this movie happened to Bruce, if that's the way his parents died, he would be obsessed with Joker.
He would be obsessed with civil unrest. It wouldn't be this mysterious thing of, it's just some guy and it can happen to anybody. And that's what that's why Batman's kind of everywhere. Even in some of the Batman comics in the early 90s that I was reading, there's a scene where he's honest, like at his parents' grave, and he's saying, like, no matter what I do, I can never stop them all, but I'll never stop trying. And that's what it is. Otherwise, it would be like, if it was like this, he would immediately home in on the problem. He'd go, okay, it's civil unrest, it's this thing, it's that the people feel this way, and he would have gone down a different life path. He probably would have been like an activist or something like that. He would have been looking for social reform and better funding for public health and things like that. I mean, am I making Bruce Wayne better? would Bruce Wayne have been more effective if this would have been how it happened?
Bruce Wayne could have been more effective as far as doing good for his city, doing anything other than being Batman.
Than Batmaning.
Until it came to him forming things like the Justice League and taking down earthly threats. Yeah, absolutely. Him as Bruce Wayne absolutely could do more for his city than Batman ever could. 100%.
Yeah.
But I saw it when that happened as this, he would understand that this was caused by the Joker. He would remember that what happened to his parents that night got sparked by what happened on television and by the one man who started it, and that would end up becoming the obsession for him.
Well, also the Waynes aren't stupid. They would not have been like, oh, look at all the stuff going on in the city. It was known before this what was happening.
Yep.
You know, the protest was planned. They talked about it on TV. They were talking about it on the subway. It's really an elevated train.
Yeah.
But they were talking about it there. And yeah, for no reason they went and saw a movie during the middle of all of this. They would not have done that. There's no way. They live in a giant mansion behind walls and gates. They have their butler come out to see what's going on with somebody who just walks up to it and is not posing much of a threat, although he's messing with the kid. But yeah, it did feel very shoehorned in.
Yeah, there were some things that happened in this Thomas Wayne connection and him, you know, people who don't make something out of themselves. Those of us who do will always see them as clowns. And I understand that was supposed to be used as an inciting thing for all the people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I feel like I'm a big fat guy. So, and I've been that way most of my life. But I've never blamed anybody but myself for the way I am. And lots of people do. They want to blame McDonald's. They want to blame their parents. They want to blame society for whatever. No, it's because you eat too much. So if this is, and this is just one of my personal beliefs, live in America. A good idea can take you to the level of a Thomas Wayne with a good idea. It's one of maybe the greatest thing about this country next to the freedoms that we have. And so, I know what they were trying to do when they said that, but my thought is he really meant when he's standing up and they said he's trying to defend what he said, and he just talks about, well, I want to run for mayor because I want to help people who are in this position and do what I can to help elevate them into a better circumstance by running the city well and giving them opportunities that maybe they didn't think they had before. And I know they were trying to portray him as almost an antagonist in this.
I think you're right, but I also think they were making him a little bit more complex than that. You know, a little hard, but not a bad guy.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to see Thomas Wayne as a bad guy.
You shouldn't, I would think.
I mean, he, in most other materials, is portrayed as probably a lot better for Gotham than Bruce. I mean, it's one of those things through most of the stories, Gotham went way downhill after the Waynes died because they did so much charitable stuff. They were a guiding force.
Mm-hmm. And you could, if you really want to look at it, you could almost see Batman as a bad guy. He just goes around and beats people cathartically for a living. That's what he wants to do. Not even for a living, just
for fun. It's a hobby. It's literally a hobby.
And he just happens to beat up bad guys. But the question is, what happens when the bad guy is just, a guy who is trying to, through bad circumstances, is trying to rob this store so that he can feed his family. And here comes Batman swooping in and beats the crap out of him. And he's in critical condition in the hospital.
Yeah.
Because he's a criminal. I take down criminals.
Yep. Yeah.
This movie makes you question so much. And I really appreciated that with this movie. I don't think we get that with a lot of the movies that we watch. Maybe we should start watching some different kind of movies that are going to do that, which I don't think the next one is going to do that either.
Yes.
But that's okay.
And in that same vein, like thinking about things, there were a lot of people who didn't want a movie that portrayed or glorified violence or kind of the bad guy of the story. But it's a movie. It's a story. It's not a fable. You're not supposed to be learning from it. You're not supposed to be taking notes on like how to live your life based off this. I think people in general can tell the difference between a story and a lesson.
I get what you're saying about, not wanting to glorify violence or whatever, but we're Americans. That's kind of what we do.
That's our jam.
That is our jam. Like,
you can show all sorts of horrific stuff, but you can't show a boob.
No boobs. Boobs aren't okay.
Do you have nipples?
Wait. Yep.
Yeah, I got two.
Sure do.
Can't show that on TV.
Can't show that on TV.
But you can show somebody getting like
horrifically mutilated.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to give a more specific example, but yeah, exactly. So violence is our jam. It's like George Carlin said, we're a warlike people.
Got that
We're
right.
good at it.
I love guns. Oh my god, guns, swords, knives, you name it. Love it. That's my jam. But
I mean,
that doesn't make me want to go out and use them on random people that I don't like. It doesn't. It's no. Sorry.
I do think that some of the stuff that some of the censoring that they do does some good. Some of the bloodless violence that we see, like in Marvel movies, you never really see blood. You know, they drop a moon on Thanos, and he has like a little scratch on his cheek, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't even my final form." I don't remember what he says, but it's like Dragon Ball Z level. Like that didn't do anything to me, and that's always what it is. No matter what happens, even if it's a human character who would like squish like a cantaloupe, nothing happens to him.
Absolutely.
Like Star-Lord can get busted through a wall, and he's going to be totally fine because it's comic book violence.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie portrayed real violence, and you have a different reaction to that. I had a different reaction to that. This is not the kind of violence I like. I like comic book violence. I know this is not good. I know if I saw something like this in real life, it would be horrifying. If I saw Iron Man and Hulk fighting in real life, I would feel bad for anybody with property nearby, but it would be the shit.
Except for the fact that I don't want to be anywhere near it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the line you're looking for is all that for a drop of blood.
Okay.
Couldn't help it. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I had to throw it in there. We can cut it. I don't care.
I'm leaving it all in.
This movie was great. It really subverted my expectations. I didn't know specifically what to expect from it. I had heard all the stuff that I had heard about it. I don't even remember watching reviews of this movie, but the things that I heard just talked about how great of a job he did in it, and he did. He crushed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, unequivocally. I mean, I know he didn't get... Well, he might have been nominated. I honestly don't know. I know he didn't win Best Actor for this the year it came out. He sure the shit should have.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares about awards ceremonies?
I don't at
Nobody
all.
cares. They tend to, like, the viewership is way down. Nobody gives a shit.
But they don't. I mean, all the stuff that's going on, like we care about super rich millionaires patting themselves on the back, handing each other awards. No, sorry, guys. We don't care. You're a bunch of liars. You're really good at lying. And we like to watch you do it. And
Pretending.
Yeah, whatever.
Really good at pretending.
However you want to call it. But that's as far as it goes. You're entertaining. But you know what else is entertaining? The circus. Like an elephant standing up and doing things. That's entertaining. But I'm not going to hold... I don't want to see an award for the best elephant. So that's how I
This
see
year's
that.
award for best bear riding a unicycle.
Okay, well, wait a second. Hold on. Bear, unicycle? There'd be some sort of Russian connection there.
I think the award should be okay. Why are these talent shows voted on by people, but not awards for? There should be an award for, or is there? I don't watch any of them. Is there an award where it's just like the people say?
I'm pretty sure they call it
Joaquin
the
Phoenix
People's Choice Awards.
Okay, I've never watched it.
I've never seen that either. I just know that that's a thing. They have the People's Choice Awards, and I don't know if it just includes movies, if it's movies, TV, games, music, all of it. I have no idea.
Yeah,
because when I was a kid, I watched the Oscars. I enjoyed watching the Oscars. It was that night the Oscars were coming. I wanted to watch all of that. Now, I could not care less about that, what they have to say, any of it. I just don't care.
yeah. None of it really matters. It's just what you think. I mean, it's just like Chaos Walking. Not the greatest reviews, but I enjoyed it.
Right?
I was able to overlook some of the issues with it and enjoy it because it was a fun movie. I mean, overall, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. I noticed one continuity error. There was a point where Tom Holland put down a knife, and in the next shot, the knife was sticking out of that piece of wood. Terrible. There are a lot of channels on YouTube and reviewers who would point that out specific. CinemaSins. I mean, their whole thing is being funny about it, but there are ones where they'd really be like, this is terrible.
Like, I mean, they can bitch and complain about it, but you ever try to make a big Hollywood movie? Sometimes you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like,
they're like, oh, out of like 35 takes we did of that shot,
right?
we forgot about the knife in that one.
Sorry, the editing wasn't totally on point with that. Our bad.
All right, man. I think I'm done. I don't have anything else to say. This is a pretty short review. For us, it's a pretty short review.
It is. This, obviously, I don't even think... I mean, we have to ask the question, watch or not a watch? Obviously a watch.
Buy it. Buy it twice.
Don't buy it twice. Just buy it once. It's fine.
Buy it and give it to somebody.
Just
give it to somebody on the street. somebody, somebody maybe you don't even like. They'll look at you suspicious, but they'll take it. Now watch it, and they'll be able to tell the difference between promoting violence and a story.
I almost wish I could have seen this movie without the Batman connection, but it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I am so happy that we're not going to get any sort of follow up to it. There's going to be no Batman universe made because of this.
Oh man, I hope not. I do not want to see this Joker anywhere else.
No.
I mean, the end scene is perfect. How he is in the room with the psychiatrist or, whatever she's supposed to be. I'm assuming that.
I kind of feel like it was the same lady from...
It wasn't.
It was not? Okay.
No, it's not the same person.
It looked like an older version of her, and I didn't know if that's what they were trying to portray.
No. There are people theorizing that the whole thing was a delusion of his that took place while he was locked in the hospital. The whole thing was like he's back in the hospital. Maybe it's a younger version of the same person or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But I don't think so. I don't buy that.
Nope.
It's too complicated to be like, oh, is it real? Did it really happen or not? It's much easier to just take it at face value. Like they showed you when stuff was fake, right?
They did. Yeah,
they
absolutely.
made it very clear that his daydream about Murray Franklin was fake. They made it very, very clear that the relationship with the girl, like what was going on there, they would have made it clear that the whole thing was like a plan or something like that, and they didn't do that. It was real.
Yeah.
It was, real to the movie world, and it was formative for him, and you see that he's walking out with blood on his shoes, and he's escaping from Arkham, which is Joker's thing.
The character development that they got in this movie, to see somebody go from Arthur Fleck to the Joker was incredible.
Think about how much more we care about Arthur Fleck, the bad guy, than we care about Captain Marvel.
Oh my gosh. Where's the change from point A to the end of the movie in Captain Marvel? There isn't.
Yeah, barely any.
But so many things happen. So many things need to be overcome. It's ridiculous. It was so well done. 100% a watch. Go out and watch this movie if you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it originally because of some controversy things that revolved around it that I agreed with and didn't appreciate some of the things because of it. And I'm not going to get into that because go watch it. That's why. Just go watch this movie. It's 100% worth watching.
Yeah. Yep. Man.
I
feel like there's more praise to heap on it, but I think we should just leave it there. And I don't know. We've made it clear that mental illness is not a joke.
It is not.
There's nothing making light of it in this movie. It's actually showing the dangers of it, the hardship that people can go through with it. So, yeah, that's it for this. This one.
If there's anything, there's people out there who can help. If you need to get help, go do it because there are people who care.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and if you're having a rough time, especially like everybody is right now, people care about you. Mm-hmm. We care about you. We care about the 3 people who might listen to this.
Absolutely. You email us, we'll email you back.
Totally.
We will respond, and we'll have a conversation with you.
I had a full-on conversation with a guy in our comments.
Nice.
On YouTube about the Tenet review.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah,
that was
he's way smarter than us.
That doesn't take a lot.
I think we should just put him on here.
We need a special guest speaker. Let's do it. Folks, Howligans, thank you for listening once again. I've been Joe.
I have been Ryan.
And pick us up any way you can. Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Overcast. Yeah. Google Podcasts. We're everywhere. We're on YouTube.
Name it.
Email us at moviehowl@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter @moviehowl. We promise we'll respond.
You got that right. This was great. Go watch it. Thanks so much, folks.
Bye.
Later.